Welcome to Stewardship Sunday 2022. This is the Sunday we gather together to ensure our continued thriving. Today is the day we are each called to consider our resources and test the limits of our generosity. Our 2022 stewardship theme is Circles of Connection, with an aim to reach our goal by March 13th, Pi Day. We urge you to reflect on the connections you have formed here and to give generously so that others may experience those same life-giving, life-sustaining connections for days to come. Last year, the stewardship team made the pragmatic decision to match our fundraising ask from the previous year. The pandemic allowed us to conserve our resources in some ways. Primarily virtual fellowship meant we were able to limit our spending, reducing our budgets to some degree around building and grounds. For 2 years, our community was also without a CCRE, or comprehensive religious education programming for our kiddos. While the lack of this programming may have saved us some money, it was detrimental to our community as a whole. I am proud and relieved to report that the CVUU is once again operating with a full staff. Woohoo! It was a long road to find that CCRE, and she is a blessing to this community already. Truly, we have assembled a dream team of dedicated professionals who believe in the mission and the vision of the CVUU as much as we all do. We must ensure that we pay them equitably and create space in our budget for growth. For 2 years, we were able to set moderate fundraising goals while maintaining our organization. This year is different in ways that are wonderful for our thriving, but challenging to our wallets. This year, we need to raise $169,000. This is an increase of more than $16,000 over the previous 2 years. I recognize that this is a tremendous ask, but it is a vital one. We have held steady over these last 2 years, but we are growing, and it is time for us to collectively meet the moment. I don't need to tell all of you how enormously challenging these last 2 years have been, not only for the CVUU, but for each of us personally and for the entire world. Through it all, the members of this congregation have banded together, doing the difficult work of keeping this place running. I am enormously grateful to the dedicated collective of volunteers who have spent their time and energy sustaining this place. In the last 2 years, we have made improvements to our building and grounds, installing new windows and air purification tools that make our building a safer place to gather. I would like to thank Roger Hahn and Bill and Moria Brown, among others, who have cared for this place in our physical absence, ensuring our return be a comfortable one. Our finance council has balanced our budget with remarkable precision, answering the call when the COVID-19 pandemic introduced unexpected expenses, keeping our organization afloat despite challenges. Our board, led by President Karen Impola, have faced one of the most challenging years in our congregation's history with grace and fortitude. One of their very first votes concerned our pandemic policies, which constrained us in some ways, but kept us safe in an uncertain world. I was moved then by their collective love for this community, and I continue to be moved by their work and their dedication now. Our theme for the 2021-2022 church year is Everything is Going to Be Okay. as long as we're together. We have clung to this truth as we have clung to each other, never losing hope and never giving up. And everything is indeed going to be okay, because despite challenges, we have grown. Our councils and committees have been busy improving our overall functioning. Upon my arrival to the CVUU in 2018, I was alarmed to discover several vital councils had lapsed or been disbanded entirely. Now these councils are back up and running, reinforcing the structure of our organization and ensuring our collective future. Most recently, we have reformed the Personnel Committee, led by Mike Knapp, who has done remarkable work for this organization over this last year. Send him a thank you if you haven't already. The Personnel Committee has provided much needed structure and professionalism. We were once, only 4 years ago, a congregation that employed a half-time minister with a very few part-time staff. We have grown into a congregation with a full-time minister and 3 part-time staff, 2 of whom receive benefits. When I first began advocating for benefits for our staff, the ask was considered unrealistic. But now we have done it, and our organization is stronger for it. We must sustain the financial health of the CVUU so that we can continue the momentum we have worked so hard to achieve. The Shared Ministry Council, chaired by the remarkable Heather Flory, has reformed over the last 2 years to protect the health of the ministry and build connections within our congregation. Our Membership and Marketing Committee has gotten creative, brainstorming ways to continue to grow in unprecedented times. And grown we have. We have added many new members, some of whom join us from out of state, and we have learned to reach across the distance. Today, if the mission and the vision of the CVUU speaks to your heart, you are welcome here, even if you join us from afar. The last 2 years has flung the CVUU into the future, urging us to advance our technology so that we can create meaningful worship experiences, whether you attend virtually or in person. We have expanded our worship team, improved our sanctuary tech, and consistently delivered excellent worship programming across multiple platforms. If you haven't lately, I encourage you to express your gratitude to our incredible worship team and the Religious Services Council, chaired by Mary Kay Madsen. I know personally that I would not have made it through these last 2 years without worship at the CVUU, which nurtures my soul and inspires my spirit. In the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, a task force was assembled to undertake the enormously challenging work of determining our policies that would ensure our collective protection. We have made hard decisions, and they weren't always popular. This week, pending approval from the board, we have eased our restrictions in keeping with the evolving science and the guidance from the CDC. The mission of the task force has always been to keep us safe, and they have done so well. The task force has voted to remove the attendance cap on worship and large group gatherings so that we may welcome all who come to our door. In the coming weeks, you will no longer need to register to attend worship, though we will ask you to sign in at the front door to maintain contact tracing if necessary. The task force has also approved of serving treats in our fellowship hall, knowing that the draw of cookies and crackers and cheese and snacks are a significant draw, especially for our littles. The task force continues to affirm that Unitarian Universalists have a moral imperative to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19, while recognizing that there are those who cannot be vaccinated, especially our children ages infant to 5 years old. The vast majority of our congregation is fully vaccinated, and we recognize the risk in our beloved community is relatively low because we are a people that has put the safety of others above our own personal comfort. The task force continues to encourage mask wearing, especially when singing, while recognizing that our assertion to follow the guidance of the CDC means relaxing the requirement. The task force is prepared to reconvene at any time if changing circumstances require it, but we are hopeful that we are entering a new era where we can all relax a little bit and return to one another as fully as we are able. We will continue to offer virtual worship and programming, recognizing that platform as a now vital aspect of our community. We will work to ensure that none of us is left behind, sticking together just as we have over the last 2 years. It is time for us to begin returning more fully to each other, to fill our sanctuary and our classrooms and our fellowship hall with community at work and at play. The joy I have felt in the moments I have been fortunate enough to sit in the fellowship hall after church, surrounded by CVUU members I have missed so much, laughing and conversing and drinking coffee, has filled me and sustained me during remarkably difficult times. I invite you now, if you are willing and able, to return to the work of building this place, to help our building come alive again, to nurture our children, and to care for one another. In the coming months, we will be sorely in need of volunteers, volunteer teachers, volunteer hospitality team members, volunteer greeters, volunteer buildings and grounds caretakers. We will continue to need also folks who are willing to nurture and sustain our virtual community, welcoming those who gather on Zoom, striving to include them fully in our collective. We are headed into the future, gathering on multiple platforms, dedicated to growing this place with all of the resources we have. As I have said each year at Stewardship Time, I recognize that not everyone has the financial means to make big pledges. This is your reminder that money is only one resource and that there are many, many ways to contribute to the CVUU. If you believe, like I do, that this is a community worth sustaining, I urge you now to consider how you might contribute to our collective future. I do believe hope is rising on the horizon and better days are ahead, but only if we are willing to put in the time and effort necessary. There is a hymn by Mark Miller, occasionally sung in UU congregations, entitled, "Draw the Circle Wide." The lyrics go, draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Let this be our song, draw the circle wide. Universalism affirms that all of humankind is included in the ever-widening circle of salvation. No person, by the nature of their inherent worth and dignity, is excluded from divine love. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to be drawing the circle ever wider, welcoming all who wish to enter into beloved community. We are a home of spiritual seekers, truth tellers, and justice bringers. We are a people who desire radical inclusion and a dismantling of structures built to separate us, because when we are separated from each other, we are ultimately separated from divine love. Salvation and liberation is and only is collective. Communities like the CVUU are the centers of the circles we are attempting to draw wide and wider still. It is here that we widen the circle. It is here that we form connections. It is here in the company of one another that we transform the world, but only if we are willing to do the work, to show up when we are called, to help whenever we are able, to nurture the connections that keep us together, and to orient our focus towards the future. These promises of a magnificent tomorrow will only be ahead of us if we give all we have in the here and now. I am beseeching you, the members of this remarkable, beloved community, to stretch the limits of your generosity. I am urging you to meet this moment as you have met all of the moments that have led us to this time. Let's keep the lights on, shining like a beacon, welcoming all those whose lives can be transformed just as our lives have because of this place. Let's draw the circle wider and wider and wider still. Let it be so because we make it so. Amen and blessed be.